All right, welcome everybody to a very, very special episode of Mojo Live. Special for me, hopefully for you, and for my guest who needs no introduction. He's the king of self-awareness, empathy, and authenticity. He fires off more F-bombs per sentence than your drunk uncle, but that's because he gives zero fucks about what anybody thinks and just wants everybody to live their lives and be happy. Don't you want to be happy? He's never heard a complaint he liked and has zero time for excuses because guess what? We're all gonna die. For today though, while we're here, we have the pleasure of being joined by my real life superhero, not because he replied to my DMs, but because I purchased his NFT made of a Sharpie pen. Please welcome the most intelligent, emotionally intelligent human that I know, Gary Vaynerchuk. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you, my friend. I'm really excited to be here. It's great to see the Discord lighting up. And it's incredibly exciting for me to execute on another podcast, Panther. I still believe the access tokens and VeeFriends are the most misunderstood. People understood that you would be able to get me on this podcast because of it. And that was a thoughtful hack. I understand that there's also the fact that Podcast Panther in a lot of ways might be the coolest looking VeeFriend period. So there's the collectible that you keep in perpetuity. I also understand that I'm a tricky guy and that I have a lot of plans to develop the characters that were access characters. So I'm incredibly grateful for you for taking such a bet on me. And I'm excited to deliver for you in a way that I don't even think you anticipated. So I'm glad to be
I fucking love you, man. I really, really do. I've been listening to you since about 2016, I believe, about 5 or 6 years. One of the first videos was your USC business talk.
Yes.
when you got there and said you can't teach entrepreneurship in a classroom, and you said, well, this is awkward.
Yes.
Right. I thought that was one of the funniest things ever at the start of that show. But yeah, you know what inspires me the most is not the business knowledge that you have, it's your willingness to show people how to be happy, right? And it's not happiness amongst community, it's happiness amongst yourself and how to be financially free as well. So, you know, to me, when I think of business,
I want to say one thing, because I appreciate your energy right now. Not only financially free, but for people to become educated, that you can be financially free at numbers that we don't talk about in society. You can be financially free making $76,000 a year if you're willing to live within those means. I was financially free, Rick, when I was 25, making $49,000 a year, because I lived in very low means. I didn't buy stuff. I had a car, I had an apartment, roof and transportation and food, and I was happy as shit. Financially free is a mindset of living within your means, not I need to make $1 million to be financially free. But I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's important to me, and I'm going to continue to bring more clarity to it.
Have you ever seen that movie just called Happiness? It's a documentary about it studied different people around the world and why they're happy and who the most happiest people are. And it found that some of the most happiest people are actually like natives, you know, people who don't have jobs, people who rely on community, they have to fend for themselves and stuff like that. And I thought that was the most interesting thing ever, right? Because we're all here striving to make more money and be, you know, increase their level, whatever that might look like. And what's interesting about the NFT revolution is that it's bringing new revolution of community to one another, right? And you know, we're not quite in metaverse form yet. We're not on, you know, in virtual reality land, but you're seeing the shift from in real life to that slowly happen. And part of the reason why I think a lot of these communities are so successful is because they mix in real life with their community online. But I thought that was interesting how, you know, happiness just means so much to different people, right? I mean, our animals that live with us are sometimes way happier than we are. And, you know, they don't have to focus on anything. They don't have to focus on the complexities of life. And I think that is so important. You know, a lot of people probably look at you and like, oh man, he doesn't get any time to spend doing what he wants to do because he's just so busy doing interviews and he's on stage constantly flying and all of that. And I look at you and I'm like, he's doing exactly what he wants to do, you know, and that's what you preach to others as well, is to find what you are, be self-aware of who you are, what you enjoy, and go do that.
That's exactly right. I mean, I think you've got it pegged. It's how I think about things. I have been happy in every step of the way because I was fortunate with the DNA game. I was fortunate with the parenting game. I was fortunate with the circumstance game. And you're right, I'm in my zone. And to your point, some people see like, wow, he's so lucky and must be so happy. And other people see like, oh, that must be a miserable existence. And for me, it's just my existence. And I love it. But I also love the fact that there's a farmer in Chile right now who loves her or his life because they're in their perfect spot. And I do spend a lot of time trying to think about how to communicate that there are no rules. The ideologies we make for ourselves are often our jails, and how much can be done and will be done. And so I'm excited about it.
I have a question for you. We have 179 people in the stage right now. What do you suggest on bumping that up to 500, 1,000? Is there anything that we could possibly do to broadcast this to your followers or anybody else that you could think of?
Well, it was the reason it's moving right now from what to 190 in front of your face is it was at 70 as we started the show, and I shared it on my Discord and I shared it on Twitter while you were talking. So I think we're in the process of accomplishing that for you.
You're the fucking man. I really appreciate it, dude. Really appreciate it.
Listen, I'm inherently an animal that understands how to bring value. I think about you making this investment at the time you made the investment, right, on the podcast Panther. And
I want to tell that story too, by the way.
Oh, I can't wait to hear. It's a lot of money. I know that I'm in a Discord, transparency, and you know this, I'm incredibly busy. I'm not sure exactly what you're doing with Mojo Heads. I'm incredibly concerned that my access tokens will be used as ways for people to put me in a position to endorse or things of that nature. So I'm incredibly thoughtful about what I say yes to or no to. We start this interview, it feels incredibly, I think people don't use their instincts enough. It feels very clear to me that you're a good dude. So immediately, though that was not my intent, immediately, even though I'm doing what I'm supposed to do contractually, I went above and beyond that in the first 5 minutes and shared it on Twitter and on my Discord because I knew that it could bring you more value than I was quote unquote required to. And had I not had that feeling, even though you just brought it up literally and asked for it, which I appreciate the direct ask, if I didn't instinctively feel what I felt, I would have said no.
I appreciate that. And I mean, we got to be authentic, and that goes for you, especially.
100%. Like I want to be, I think one of the great, one of the great things that I'm working on, and I talk about it in my new book, 12 and a half, is, you know, kind candor, right? I
ordered 96 copies of your book.
and you're going to be very happy with those 8 NFTs. And, you know, it seems like you're pretty in tune to my stuff. So you're probably aware that the series is going to be called Book Games. And I'm incredibly excited about it because I think the games I start the launch with this late December. Little breaking news. I'm actually contemplating even moving it to the first week of January because of something on the tech side. But the games are going to be forever. Like I'm incredibly focused on value exchange. Anybody that ever buys an NFT from me, once I understood that I could bring value to the NFT in perpetuity, that could keep adding value to it, I knew that I had to be in this world because I'm scared of nothing because I know I'll die for my reputation. And then that must, and thus means that any vulnerabilities to the tokens are things that I will put my sheer tornado-like energy against. I can't control the market. I can't control Ethereum. I can't even control if there's an NFT winter and VeeFriends loses 80% of its value overnight. I just can control that net before I die, they will be more valuable in whether it's financial, whether it's emotional, whether it's serendipity. Let's talk
about the value that you like to provide the most. You like to provide the most impact to people. And so let's talk about the impact that you've had on me, right?
Okay.
First, a little bit about me. This is going to sound a little familiar. Sold lemonade and candy in the 80s
What year were you born?
1976.
Love it. Go ahead.
And flipped baseball cards in the early 90s through high school before I even had a car. 3 years, I think, my mom would shovel me out over to conventions, and I would just put my cards out there.
And where did you grow up?
Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
Flipped domain names in the late 90s, crypto for the last 5 years, and now NFTs. I'm in my mid 40s, obviously. Don't let the hat and the hoodie fool you. but yeah, so my experience with Podcast Panther, first off, I was already a big fan of, I knew of NFTs, but, and I bought my crypto kitty back in, 2018. But the VeeFriends was like, okay, I'm prepping for this day. And I actually saw one of your developers, Frankie. I met him a few days before you launched. And I'm like, okay, I'm not sure which one I want to get, but once I looked at them all, I said, Podcast Panther, that's the best one. That's the best one. And I didn't have a podcast. I've been terrified of being in front of the camera my entire life. I'm a true introvert, true business person, but the introverted side of Gary, right?
Yeah.
And so this is something I never thought I'd be capable of doing. And I think the only reason why I'm doing it now and I'm comfortable enough is because of business, putting myself out there and having to do interviews and having to do meetings over and over and over and over. So this stuff is like second nature to me. But still, even when I talk to you right now, I'm like, wow, this is crazy. This is surreal. Thoughts going through my head. Completely different from the conversation we're having right now, right? At the same time.
I totally get it.
But it's one of the best experiences I'll ever have. And so if I was going to talk to my future self right now, I'd be like, you fucking made it, dude. You fucking made it. And I'm so proud of you. And
I'm really grateful to be part of this experience. And I'm very humbled by that. And I'm very proud of you.
So yeah, really, that means so much. You have no idea. Well, no idea. Because I know that this is why you do it. And I'm getting emotional. I've got goosebumps right now, Gary, I swear to God. But yeah, this means the world to me, and I appreciate you being here and giving the access to people like me, because I'm not the persistent type that's going to DM you over and over and over. I'll find a way, but you opened that door for me. So
well, it's interesting, like I sit here and I'm listening to you, like you spent a lot of money for this, and I love that. I'll tell you why, because I knew that I wanted to teach the world all the things that NFTs could be besides just the art. And I do believe that access to individuals is an incredible aspect of this, and it will come in all shapes and sizes. The best violinist giving a 1-hour practice. This is the things that people like me and others do for nonprofits and things of that nature. What excited me the most, and why I'm getting excited right now, was I didn't know who was going to buy the Podcast Panthers, because I felt that they could be two very extreme different people. The spammy, hacky, oh, this is my chance. I can use money, because Gary would never have said yes. And I'm going to use money to get Gary to co-sign me. And so I was very scared of the Podcast Panther.
Makes sense.
But I had hope. Like, you don't even know how I feel right now. You're talking about goosebumps. Like, I had hope that it would be someone like you, because there was another part, and I've already referenced it. I'm going to say it again, because I want to teach people why NFT projects are special for good intent people. I know that Podcast Panther on paper looks like a token that gets you on the podcast. Remind me, is it one time or is it more than one time? Is it just one time podcast?
Twice, once per year.
Right. So what excites me is, I knew that I did know once. I got confused for a second. So what's cool about this is now you have a decision to make, right? Like, I believe as people understand what I'm up to, these access tokens are going to get weird, AKA awesome. Like, you're going to get offers. And now it's a different podcast. Like, you needed this, like for you, you wanted, you were excited about this. What I've learned from people that I've admired, wanted to hang out with, be with, the second time already feels different than the first time. It gets normalized.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited now, because now I think you're sitting on an asset that the thought that you can make a massive profit on getting the moment excites me. Two, what excites me is I think people are starting to understand how collectible access ones are, because they're truly one of ones. And if you price them against spectaculars, all of a sudden they became a ridiculous deal. 3, I don't think people understood that I was going to develop these characters. So for me, Podcast Panther, even if you look at how cool he looks, has always been, do I want to create a Beats by Dre headset for the like, there's like so many things that I have in my mind. Like,
that's what's great. That's what's great. I mean, and that's the kind of stuff that the collectors will just go crazy for, right? I stared at all the Podcast Panthers and I said, which one's the most happiest? I was the first to grab a Podcast Panther, and I paid the most too. It wasn't much more, but it was a little bit more. And I remember going to bed because they start at 25 ETH. And I was telling Kayla, I'm like, do I just grab one now and not worry about it and get a good night's sleep? And she said, absolutely. I'm like, but there's 5, and the business side of me came out and said, fuck no, no fucking way. I'm not going to be the first one, you know, and obviously went all the way down to 10, but I couldn't sleep that night. I checked every hour.
I love
and
it.
nobody bought anything.
Listen, it was a very, one of the disappointing moments of my career, right? Micro, all like just the game of it. If that MetaMask error didn't happen, and it's something I don't talk about ever, but we launch and we have an error in our code on MetaMask and it looks like gas is $30,000 to most of the people. So I'm sitting there. This was the moment. Don't forget, we were delayed by a week.
It just happened to me last week, Gary. We just delayed our mint for the exact same reason.
So we have this error that we didn't see, that we couldn't see until it happened. And what happens is I can feel the moment, the collective universe, and there's thousands of people, and I'm getting the DMs, the tweets, and the texts from my most inner circle. Everybody kind of understands, wait a minute, I don't have to buy this right now, because nobody could buy it for an hour and a half. So everything's coming down, and the collective market realized, wait a minute, it's almost like people, it's amazing how Dutch auction psychology works.
Yep.
It's almost like the universe together said, oh, wink, wink, let's all wait, and then we'll rush to it. That's an enormous amount of economic loss for me. And it was a really tough night, even though, it's really tough to say you have this $20 million event and you knew that it should have been 65. On the flip side, the reason I kind of sat with it for an hour and then transitioned into happiness was everyone like you went from 25 to 10. And then even more importantly, a lot sat even when they hit. And it's just been an amazing journey for me of like, I feel like the right people own VeeFriends.
See,
and that makes me so happy.
I would think that you would be the most happiest that went all the way to the floor. Because that gives you more leverage later.
Yes, but I want to be transparent. When you're competitive, when you just want to win, I'm not worried about the fact that it was $50 million instead of $100 million. Like, it's all, after $1 million, it's all insanity. It's not about the money. It's about the competitive spirit. You put in 3.5 months, you crossed every T and I, and a slight little tweak on a couple of characters on a MetaMask integration, make everything not, I'm in it for it all sold out in an hour more than what the math was. You're right. The reason, and I said it earlier, the reason I only sat on it, the disappointment for an hour and then converted into happiness was the competitive spirit of doing it well. To your point, it worked out better for me than I could have imagined, because a lot of the whales and the people that didn't know me that were speculating kind of like dropped, because once it didn't sell out, they're like, oh, fuck it, Gary's project isn't good. And then it sat on the floor for a week. That's why when people come in, they're like, Gary, this shit's too expensive. Like, motherfucker, it sat for a week. You could have bought it at fucking at the bottom.
Everybody looked at the floor and they looked at each other. They're just like, what is happening? Why is this happening? Right? I grabbed a few more. I grabbed a couple of Mojo Mouses. I gave one away to your community, by the way. I got scammed by my other Mojo Mouse. So both of my Mojo Mouses were gone. One of which went to a good place at least. But yeah, I now have 3. And couldn't be more happier. Can't wait for VeeCon, all that. It's gonna be great.
VeeCon is gonna be, if I announced the 13 speakers I have confirmed, not the 20 that are in 3rd and 4th, 5th space, and I would say 80% easily are gonna lock in. If I just announced who's already locked in, people would lose their fucking mind. VeeCon is gonna be out of control.
Well, I think everything that you think went wrong for that 1 hour during your mint is going to be completely the opposite come VeeCon, because you're going to have 100% full control over that.
I feel good about it.
Let's talk about the community. Let's talk about this community. Actually, I have a lot of people here. This is actually our 8th or 9th show. So you helped me start all of this, because I'm like, I need to have a podcast. I need to get warmed up for the interview. Like, everything is built around today. And so we started to do Mojo Live. I created my own collectible, which we can talk about too if you'd like. But and so everybody here, I just want to say you guys are the fucking best. The Mojo Heads community, which is one of the I'd say strongest growing emerging artist communities that exists. You know, we are people who are trying to give each other value, and we want to see each other win. And the hardest part about the art community is that it's very, very difficult to win in a world where there's massive money in the other collectibles, right? And so when you're sitting there watching as an artist and you have this amazing gift and you just want to share it with the world, and you just want other people to, you don't even care about the profit. You just want people to see your work, right? Get exposed and wake up one day and say, bam, I got a foundation sale. This is the best day of my life, right? Because that's the feeling that I get from artists. When I go out and purchase a piece of artwork, I feel like I just made their entire year.
Yeah.
Because I invested 0.1 ETH on something that I love. Completely changed my entire perspective on what I want to do as a business person.
It's been the framework of my career. I totally get it. I live it.
Just went through the aha moment myself.
Back to right.
There it is. I'm feeling exactly the same way.
Well, listen, you have to understand. I'm going to go deeper with you. I never had an ounce of interest in fame from 0 to 35. Not an ounce. Didn't even cross my mind. From 0 to 29, excuse me. Actually, from 0 to 35, I'll explain. I had it right the first time. I started Wine Library TV when I was 30. And it was the first time I had ever put myself in public. I was a businessman. Yes, I'm extroverted and I've got gift of gab and charisma and charm and like humor. Like I've got that personality, but that was used for like just being entertaining at a dinner table or like my friends. There was never a part of me that ever thought I would be known, nor was there a part of me that had any interest in actually pursuing that. Somewhere in my mid 30s, after Crush It, after some keynotes, I believe subconsciously, and now at 46, it's conscious, that the reason I wanted to become Gary Vee is based on what you just said. That if I had all this notoriety and leverage and juice, that when I would deploy my juice, it would matter more. I'm collecting all this energy to distribute it, not to keep it.
Love it. I see it. I see it all the time in every word that comes out of your mouth. It's very clear. It really is.
Thank you.
We have some gifts for you. So the community has been working on some birthday cards. I know you've probably seen them all over VeeFriends Discord, but I want to share them with you today.
Please.
And I'm going to post a link in the chat here so that everybody can enjoy them as well. And we had 29 art submissions, all dedicated to you. Should I post it in the chat here? Or do you want to?
I see it. I see the URL, the tweet, right? Is that where you put it?
Yeah, click on that and then click on the replies. These are the top 5 winners of our fan art contest that we had. And there were 5 finalists. We ended up just.
I saw this Jera artwork study. I did follow. I really like that style. Really clever.
They're all amazing. They're all so amazing. And you should see the ones that didn't make the finals here.
I love this. I love this.
And yeah, we just finished this contest yesterday. Let me just tell you something. Don't ever have a contest.
This is Iram style is very
you see that picture in the background?
Yeah, Iram style. She's her style is really up my alley.
Can you see the photo of me behind me?
Yes, I can. That's hers.
Same artist. Yeah, she's amazing. She did a derivative for me, and I just fell in love with it. I had to print it out and put it in my office.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely great.
It's really cool stuff. Thank you. Very
One
humble.
more for you. Have you ever seen Rubik's Cube art?
Have I ever seen?
Have you even heard of it?
I'm not sure. Show me.
This is a buddy of mine who he's a Rubik's Cube's master. So what he does is he uses the cubes and the colors of the squares to create an actual piece of artwork out of hundreds of Rubik's Cubes.
That's insane.
Do you see that?
Yeah, I'm on foundation right now.
There you are.
He physically made that?
He physically made that out of Rubik's Cubes, one by one.
Fucking shit.
Amazing.
I'm following him on foundation.
Wow. Isn't that fucking awesome?
That is wild.
So, and
what's his name?
Guess what? His name is Harryology. And he has tons of stuff on foundation unsold. You know, I bought one of his things, and we have it.
Do you get the physical?
Oh, that would be amazing.
You don't, right?
I don't know.
No. But
can you imagine?
Does he sell them where you get the physical, or he just takes a photo and calls it a day?
He does a video of the process and then calls it a day.
Super cool. Understood.
Awesome.
Very cool.
And then lastly, this is a gift from us. This is a gift from me. And we are an emoji business. So Joy Pixels has been around for 8 years. We are one of the only Unicode compliant emoji fonts that's independent. We're not Google, we're not Apple, we're just an emoji studio, right? And so we created your own emoji here.
I love it. It's really good too.
Oh man, our designers have become masters at their craft. And that goes into what Mojo Heads is as well. And I think you're gonna like what we're doing. So let me kind of explain that. Give myself kind of a shameless plug, but I want to run it by you actually, because you know, one of the things that I loved about collecting baseball cards is that you were placing a bet on the future of that player.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And that was the leverage. I would go to the conventions and I would say, okay, you guys are undervaluing this guy, this guy, this guy.
It's how, by the way, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Nope,
I made a fortune on Frank Thomas and Kenny Lofton for that reason.
Yep.
Because that's exactly how I saw it too.
The one that's in my brain is John Olerud. And
my God, yes.
He had a year where he was batting like 400, right?
I remember.
And I'm like, I'm picking up every John Olerud I could find because I see it. And yeah, that was good. But what I would always do is I would trade, like, I'd be in LA. So I'd want Dodger cards from Yankee fans, and we'd trade back and forth. And this was before the internet. This was Prodigy days, AOL, before AOL, right? And I was the online guy. So that was my arbitrage. I'd go online and trade with people, and the best feeling would be getting those cards in the mail, right, in the little plastic bags, and then opening them up, and then knowing that I'll sell these for more money.
I love that.
But yeah, going back to what Mojo Heads is, so we want to make rookie cards for artists. And
I love it.
So I personally believe that, you know, I'm so bullish on art, right? I'm so bullish on art. I'm so bullish on NFTs. The heroes of the space are the artists, in my opinion. The superstars of tomorrow are the artists, the ones that are in this community now. And the moment that I had when I realized artists are actually struggling to make a living in a lot of cases and get noticed, Mojo Heads is my way of doing something about it. And so
I totally understand.
The mission behind Mojo Heads is to make artists be seen, expose them. And the best way I thought that I could do that is putting their actual face on an NFT in a collectible way. So not just stamp a picture, but our team decided to create emoji expressions of their real life face. So we did partnerships with them. We've done 24 artists so far, 504 NFTs, and every artist has a different expression, all randomized for the most part. Some of them are common, some of them are rare, some of them are epic. For example, we have a zombie, we have an alien. Imagine having a Gary V alien, right? Or a Gary V Cyborg, those are the epic ones. You get 1 out of 8 epic expressions, right? And then we add different collectible items as well. We also have the best trait on the entire NFT is the QR code. So that QR code we program to go wherever the artist wants. So if the artist wants it to go to their foundation, that's where it goes. So you collect a randomized character of an artist with randomized frames and backgrounds and things like that, or even their signature in the corner. Everything that I've learned throughout my entire career, I've applied to this product.
I get it.
And so we're launching on Friday.
That's awesome.
And I've never been more excited in my entire life.
How many are you minting?
504.
And
because we can't do this we can't do it generative, right?
I get it. And how many artists?
24. So they have 21 NFTs per artist.
And you've been in contact with all of them?
We all have formal agreements with every single one of them. So
you do have.
It's a huge onboarding process.
Right. You did one.
A lot of work.
I love it. A lot
of work. But I believe in it long term.
Are these all under the radar artists, or were you able to get a couple of people that have big followings?
A little of both. Right?
And are we minting it as in randomized, or I get to go in and pick who I want?
Completely random. So one of the artists, Yam from World of Women.
Love her.
But there's so much talent. They're all amazingly
talented. I mean, you saw what I did yesterday, I assume, right?
DNA.
Yeah, you and I are so aligned in a lot of ways. And here's another one. Like, I am obsessed with this show. Like, the thought that every time I do this show, it's going to help a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And my point of view is it's also going to help the human beings on the other side of Twitter, because I think it's so early. I'm a businessman. I'm not naive that here's Sally, and then immediately people are going to go and find Sally's project and start buying it. But I think those people that buy it, and then, there's going to be people that are going to move fast and probably buy and sell while I'm doing the show. They're going to buy for 0.05. They're going to sell for 0.5.
I was watching the activity log of Women in Weapons last night. It was
out of
absolutely
control?
Insane. It was probably hundreds of sales within 10, 15 minutes, something crazy.
So I'm so pumped that you're doing this. And I think there'll be many champions of these artists. And listen, like I said on the show last night, and like I've been saying, this is gonna be like influencer marketing. Not everybody's meant to be Logan Paul and Charlie D'Amelio and King Batch.
Right.
But the amount of people that make $100,000 a year, which is an ungodly amount of money on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, just being themselves, is extraordinary. And artists are about to feel the same thing that models and comedians and business voices
have been saying it for the last 6 months. I've been saying the same thing. And I think that people just haven't gotten there yet. They haven't realized the magic behind purchasing a piece of artwork. It's different because when you buy a piece of artwork at a gallery, usually, sometimes you get to meet the artist, right? But in most cases, maybe you buy it from a dealer or something like that, or online. So you never get to meet that artist. Today, you have full access to the artist. In fact, they're going to make sure that they thank you and appreciate you like you've never been appreciated in your entire life, just because you found what they're doing is validating. You found it beautiful to yourself, and you validated that artist.
And I think if you're not an artist, and it's funny, I actually think that entrepreneurs are more artists than people realize, because you're really doing something that you want the market to validate. Like, my whole life has been art. My sign for lemonade was, could I get more cars to stop at my lemonade stand? My baseball card tables, and since we share this, I wish Brandon, my best friend, was on here now, who runs Wine Library. I would spend like hours extra than everybody else setting up my table in response to what I saw people walking by the convention or the firehouse or the mall. Like, after the first 20 people walk by my table, I would literally watch their eyes and their actions and adjust. You're looking for validation in the purchase. Entrepreneurship and sales, in a lot of ways, shares a lot with artists, in my opinion. Artists, of course that validation means something. You made something, somebody bought it. It's a remarkable validation cycle.
Well, we all validated you, my friend. We 10,000 plus VeeFriends, and every one of us enjoys it. It's absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
And guess what? If another validation, if you'd like, we're working on Group B for Mojo Heads. If you want to be one of those, just let me know. Okay, no pressure at all.
We should absolutely talk about, I'm very open to having that talk. I'm incredibly careful about what I'm doing with NIL, with me personally, my name, image, and likeness, excuse me. But I'd be lying if I didn't say in this first 40 minutes of really getting to know each other that I feel a very strong warmth towards you, and it compels me to want to push myself. And if not, I mean, look, there's a 0.0 chance that I'm not buying some on Friday. So please keep me updated on what time's the mint.
I'll send you, if you send me your address, I'll send you some pre-sale passes. You will need a pre-sale pass to actually get one.
Great.
We gave them all the way to our community, and the only ones available are the ones that the community are selling on the secondary.
Understood. Yeah, so I'd like some of those, please.
You bet.
Just send me an email to Gary at VaynerMedia, and then my team will put into motion.
Absolutely. So we don't have much time, but I have 2 segments for you.
Please.
2 of my favorites of yours, Ask Gary V Show and Overrated, Underrated. So if we can get through them quickly,
let's do it.
Let's do it. Rapid fire, okay? And I've got another intro for you. Ready? We ask questions and he answers them. This is the Mojo Live edition of the Ask Gary V Show. My name is Moby, and this is Mojo Live episode 8. And we're here with the man of the hour, Gary Vaynerchuk. And with that said, Gary, I think that it's time to get into the show. All right, here we go.
I'll give you some breaking news. I'll give you something nobody on earth knows. There is a very in-depth conversation of bringing back the Ask Gary V Show.
Please do. It's my favorite.
I miss it. And we are
especially the early days when you had the glass wall behind you.
Dangerously close. Dangerously, and same exact format. Twitter questions, co-hosts like an India or Stunwin. Obviously, it'll be new people. And I'm wildly excited about it. I think it's a foregone conclusion. So there's your scoop here at Mojo Heads.
Well, I've been taking questions from my own community. So let's get going. My own question is this. If the price of ETH were to 5x from here, let's say ETH was $25,000, which many believe that it will be soon. Do you think that hurts the relative ETH value of NFT art and collectibles?
No, I think everything will adjust against USD.
Right.
I don't think people understand. We're still in a USD mindset.
Absolutely. I've been saying this. Yep.
So the answer is that.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Willow House. She's in here today. She asks, people always assume life is easy when you have Gary V level fame. So I'm curious what types of professional or personal challenges he faces that people might not realize.
My children don't want people to come up to me and take selfies when they're together with me in public. And
makes perfect sense.
I don't know how to say no to people in a way that will land. And I found my way. I'm starting to win that game, but they don't want it. And not that they hate it, but when you're busy, your children want every minute of your attention, even when you're not busy. And I am busy, which means limitations within that. And I'm so grateful. And I know I'm not out and about a lot. So when people see me, and my level of quote unquote fame is based on admiration, not on me being attractive, not on me being a athlete, not me being a comedian. I'm not bringing escapism or fantasy. I'm bringing value. So the level of response that I get, I have famous friends and we're out sometimes and they are baffled by the difference between what they get and what I get. And I tell them all the time, it's because my value exchange is different. So when somebody comes, I'm actually flattered and grateful, yet I don't want to go to that place because I get caught in this in between. And that is just one tiny story from a million things that come along with notoriety, which is, you want a good one? Let me give you one that's 14 minutes ago. I was outside an hour and a half ago delivering very exciting news to my best friend. One that created an emotional reaction. Thus, I'm crying. I'm in this emotional, one of my favorite moments of my life. I'm not kidding now. This is crazy. An hour and a half ago. but I'm sitting outside, and during it, multiple people are coming up. I'm flattered. I'm taking the selfies, but it's compromising this moment of intimacy with my best friend since I was 14. I'm not upset. This is not, I mean, these are Hollywood problems. These are high, but your life is your life. I'm the hero for every person in my life.
It makes perfect sense. I mean,
that's a lot of
there's nobody
pressure
that you care about more than your own family, right? And the last thing you want to do is make them uncomfortable. And so that's a real life challenge. I mean, it's I appreciate you sharing that with us.
I also want to wrap this up with the following. None of it's a real big challenge for me because I'm incredibly simplistic. I am just grateful for health, and that's that. So my life was easy at 40K a year. My life is easy at making 8 figures a year, right?
Yep.
What I want people to understand, forget about me. I think I'm an enigma. I truly do. Take this. I don't see a single parallel between, and I have a lot of friends who make under $100,000 a year because of the way I grew up. And I have an ungodly amount of friends and acquaintances that make $1 million a year. I have a ton of friends who make under $70,000 a year. I have tons of friends who make $7 million a year and more. I am completely convinced that Diddy and Biggie have it right, which is more money, more problems.
Mm-hmm.
If you asked me gun to head, who's happier? I would say the people with less money.
I think in most cases that's true.
I really do.
Yep. Go back to the happiness movie, right? Who's happiest? The people with no money at all.
No money. This farce that has been sold to us that money solves problems. Money solves certain problems.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just wish the world can get more thoughtful.
My complete, I was after money in my 20s. That was my goal. That was my inspiration was my uncle who had a business, and I strived to be him. I wanted the big house. I wanted everything. Completely changed in my 30s. Completely turned that around, and my priorities are completely different because of I realized that money doesn't bring happiness.
Miguel CBS says, but Gary, how do we have freedom to do things without money? My friend, money is the thing that causes less freedom. Do you understand the psychology responsibilities that come along with money? Right? Like there's just so many variables. You know how many people have made money from families that didn't come up with it? And then, I mean, I'm in the football representation business. I'm in the entrepreneurship business. I'm in the Gary Vee business. I know nothing but people that came up from nothing, made money, and then their life is miserable because the 7 family members that are closest to them have incredibly toxic relationships with them because they have expectations of that person on what they've earned, on how they're supposed to. We create our own jails and freedoms.
Yeah, and I think some people would look at this conversation and say that, this is almost like white privilege style talk, because when you have a lot of people that are in the chat room right now who are in different countries who are struggling and they're helping their families, put food on the table, things like that, money to them is just survival. Right?
I understand that. I think the difference is the world. I don't understand one's audacity to say somebody else's life is easier than theirs.
True.
And money is just only one of those variables.
Correct.
Right? Like this idea, like I have relatives who lived in the Soviet Union who had suppression, anti-Semitism, this and that, who think life was better in Russia than it is in America. Like you have all kinds. Like we create our own rules. We create our own ideologies. Here's my number one thing. There's 8 billion versions of life, and all of them are true all at the same time. Listen, I'm just one man. I could be 100% wrong. I think it's dangerous to think something is going to solve something.
It's a good point.
You know what I mean?
And what's great about everything that you share to us and teach us is just don't judge other people and don't assume what you think, what you experience is what they're experiencing.
That the person here who made $100,000 with VeeFriends. I mean, I know for a fact that a ton of people's lives got a lot better with VeeFriends because they made $100,000 that they didn't have and a clear debt and allowed them to do things. And yes, their quote unquote life on their problems of debt and fixing their leak in their roof is better. But those are only two problems of life.
Yep.
And that's kind of the point. And I think more importantly, the point is if you believe something is going to be the singular variable to your happiness that is in financial terms, I am passionately in disagreement.
We got 6 more questions.
Let's go.
Let's do it. It's funny because I was like, I think I can do this. All I got to do is tell Gary that we're gonna do rapid fire, and he'll be ready to go. And he's
I'm gonna go rapid. I'm gonna go rapid. Let's go.
Casey asks, I'd like to know where Gary does his best thinking. For example, gym, shower, or on a run.
Plane.
Airplane.
Airplane. Nobody bothers me. It's usually a lot of length of time. I can really go there.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, for me, it's a shower. Casey, follow up. Who would win in a street fight, a gutter cat or a bored ape?
A gutter cat, because it's from the gutter.
That's right.
The other one's on the yacht club. It's too soft. The gutter always beats the yacht.
Love it. Shout out to my gutters. Uriba B asks, what is the potential of VeeFriends 2 for people who will be jumping in for the first time?
My intuition is that VeeFriends 2 day trading in the short term could be very lucrative given how I intuitively feel. Look, I don't like, and that, I don't even like that answer because it's a short-term answer, but I want to be transparent of what my intuition is. I could be wrong. I often am. But I think Series 2 is a lower cost of entry to characters that I plan on making household names. And is a Michael Jordan second year 87 Fleer card worth as much as an 86? No. Is it worth a lot more today than it was worth when you and I were collecting? Yes. The end.
I love that you referenced 86 Fleer. That's amazing. Vivek Visual asks, as a 20-year-old, shall I take being an NFT artist as a full-time career or focus on my education first and do this sideways? I seriously hate books.
Well, I was going to go, I'm not sure. And then the last part made it very simple. The answer is you should focus on the career, not the school, because you hate school. Thus, it can never be actually valuable to you.
Got it. Miss Amanda R asks, when you look, and by the way, you're doing great on this rapid fire right now. Props. When you look to sweep the floor of a smaller project, what are you looking for in these projects?
Do I believe the human being that's fully in charge has the capability of driving the project for the next 2 decades?
Love it.
Every single project I'm betting on at this point is 100% predicated on the human that's driving it.
I've seen that on most of your interviews, and it makes perfect sense. It's really hard for me to watch people, put a lot of money into a new project without knowing who's behind it, especially the anonymous ones, right?
For me, they make no sense, like 0 sense. I understand why people do it. A lot of people think how active a Discord is and how much they like the art is the reason.
Twitter numbers. They look at our Discord right now.
Now, if you're collecting for your enjoyment, AKA putting it on the shelf and looking at it, well, that should be the only variable, your subjective opinion of the art. If you're doing it for investment purposes, then my answer is very different.
Absolutely. Another question for you from me. What do you think will have the biggest impact on NFTs? Coinbase Marketplace or Twitter NFT integration?
Coinbase Marketplace.
Agree. Ivory Towers asks, I would love to ask him how he stays sane and so humble with all of the eyes of the NFT world on him.
Because when people hear me say things like, I don't care what you think, they think it comes from a place of bravado and edginess and strength. But where it's really coming from is a place of humility. My personality and the way I communicate and even the way I produce content does not speak to humility at all. The people that know me best, or the ones that are thoughtful enough and have given me their time to really look at my content carefully, see it. It's incredibly easy for me to navigate this moment because I don't think any bigger or better of myself in the same way that I never feel any worse or weaker of myself.
And I think that's why all of your fans love you so much, is because of how humble and authentic and honest you are all the time.
I love them back, and I love them first. The reason I have people that love me is because I love them first. The same reason we love our parents. They loved you first.
It's a really good point. Last question, K-Bear, and probably the most important one. What should artists do to stand out from the crowd?
I believe that artists need to be self-aware that if they are not capable to do anything but the art, the community stuff, the promotion, the content that gets awareness, if they can't do the other stuff, if they want to stand out from the crowd, they need to team up with somebody. The old, gallery person was so essential to Jackson Pollock and Andy Warhol. Andy did it himself, but Jackson Pollock and many others, right? Today we have people like me running around who, yeah, I'll buy some pieces, but what I did for Women and Weapons last night historically meant that I should have gotten 50% of the action. So we have this incredible world now where people are more generous than they were in the art world, gallery world. But do I see an evolution of people becoming managers and marketing foundations for these artists? I do. I do see artists having to have the humility to say, you know what, I need to give 20% or 50% of my action. I would say 20% is max, 20% or less of my action to John or Joanna or Shaniqua or Stevie or Ronaldo to do the standout from the crowd. There's too many artists right now who just want to make the art, which is amazing because they're artists, but then they want to shit on everything because they're incapable of getting the demand, right? When I see Pashmo say I paid 50% of galleries the last 15 years, it makes sense. If he or she felt that they were incapable of getting the demand, well, it makes sense. I think good news for artists. I think it's going to go to 20 to 30% like technology, Apple, or 20% like kind of the world, the way it works. Because there's a lot of promoters out there. Galleries used to cost a lot of money to set up a physical location, things of that nature. So I think artists are going to find themselves in a position where they're going to only have to give up 20 to 30% or less to get somebody to do that part. But if they're not capable, then they're not capable.
What I noticed, the reason why we switched gears with our own business was because I saw the problem was so clear to me. I saw that artists are having trouble branding themselves, which makes sense because there's hundreds of them or thousands of them.
Yeah, it's supply and demand.
It's supply and demand, and so for me, the tools just aren't there yet. I see, and so what we're gonna do is find ways to make utilities out of our Mojo heads that give you access to providing tools to find artists. The biggest thing for me is that it's the story behind the artist that is just as compelling as the art itself, because almost every single artist has an amazing story to tell. And so when you start to get to know the artist, and I think that is going to be one of our goals, is to allow the artist to tell their story in compelling ways, right? In very interesting ways. And that go along right with the art. So here's the artist, here's their amazing work, and here's the person behind the artist. I think when you can make that connection, it makes a huge difference.
I couldn't agree more.
So I cannot wait to help this community is to the best of my ability, and Mojo Heads is just the start for us for sure.
I totally understand it.
Ready for overrated, underrated NFT edition? I know we only have 3 minutes. We can do this. You ready? Here we go. OpenSea.
Underrated.
Solana NFTs.
Underrated.
Patient Panda at 55 ETH.
Underrated.
Amazing. Twitter and Twitter Spaces.
Underrated.
Nifty Gateway.
Underrated.
Venture Capital.
Overrated.
Foundation.app Marketplace.
Underrated.
PFP projects.
Overrated.
One of One artwork.
Underrated.
Stoner Cats.
Underrated.
And last one, even though you only know a little bit, Mojo Heads.
Underrated.
Gary, this has been the most amazing experience of my life. Probably one of the best hours, I could say. I just want to thank you, and I think the community thanks you as well. We've been preparing for this all week. You have no idea how much artists, I mean, I think you do, but artists just love you tremendously, especially this community. I invite anybody who's listening today to please just come join us. Come join the amazing talent that we have in this community. Go look and see
what's the, you know, as we wrap up, because I'm probably going to rip this and put it on my podcast to give you a ton more exposure. What's the easiest URL for people to find this Discord or the community?
mojoheads.com is probably the easiest way. We have,
because you can scroll to the bottom and get the Discord link.
We have our icons at the very bottom and the very top.
I love it.
Right.
Mojoheads.com.
Mojoheads.com. Have an amazing day. I know you got a great thing to announce.
Yeah, I got another Discord in a minute. I'll see you all in the VeeFriends Discord in a minute. Thanks, you, my friend. Congratulations.
Love you. Thank you. You too. Bye-bye. Love you.